Ah, there we go. Look at that. There's a thing, a setting that it was wrong. Okay, so we're doing it again. I love the chat room.
Take
Kimmy,
two.
Caps, Kimmy, look at us. Look at us. There's no sound. Thank you. All right, so try again. So welcome. This is Happy Jack's Hot Seat, super professional. We have sound now, I hope. And this is our third episode, and today we have Kurt Hanna as our guest.
Hello
Thank you
again.
for being here. Hello again. Yay! Thank you, Weasel Creature. So you probably know Kurt from our podcasts at the conventions. He runs games. He plays in games. He's a...
I am a Dragon Brother.
There you
Yes,
go.
I am a Dragon Brother. That was what we were going for.
Yeah, that was our
earlier.
celebration a minute ago.
Yeah.
So he is an original Dragon Brother. He plays in my games a lot, and I always love having him in my games.
And I will always be forever indebted to Kimmy to introducing me to Wild Talents because it's an awesome system that I'm running a campaign in sort of right now. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And someday you're going to run a game for me so I could actually play
Hey,
Wild Talents because I've never played it. Never
Next
played
con.
Okay.
Next con.
Okay.
It's just so long as we don't actually schedule our games during the same block of time.
Again. All right. So, in addition to being in our cons, being on the podcast, playing, running games, what makes you famous? Why are you here?
I'm famous because I'm in a band called Sportive Tricks that plays, among other places, the Renaissance Fair. We play all throughout the year. Actually, we've got a show on Sunday.
Yay!
We've got a show this Sunday in Newport Beach.
Excellent.
I've been in that for about 2009, so 7 years. Yeah.
Nice.
And let's see. What actually, my legitimate claim to fame though is in terms of like actual worldwide fame, because a picture of me was carried by the AP and distributed worldwide.
Nice.
Because I moved a spaceship.
Nice.
I was very closely involved with the move of the Endeavour space shuttle through Inglewood and Los Angeles.
Nice.
So there were some pictures of me manipulating the shuttle crossing sign that we custom made for that. Which, if you're not getting it from my company, you're getting a bogus one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was probably the most intense 3 days of my life, and one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of.
Brilliant.
So
in addition to GM, gamer, folk musician extraordinaire, you are also a shuttle crossing sign holder.
apparently,
Okay.
yes, and shuttle manipulator, right?
Right.
Yes,
Totally.
exactly.
Yeah. One of my pictures actually is on AP too, and it's been used for a bunch of stuff. And it's me dressed as Wonder Woman,
Mm-hmm.
and most recently it was used on a big attack thing against
Yes,
Wonder Woman.
I saw that actually. I was like, wow, come on, man.
There's nothing like sitting there and then just checking your Twitter in the morning.
Also, did you check with that photographer before you used his photograph without his permission?
Well, I looked it up, and evidently it's on AP, so you can buy it. So anybody can buy the image and use it legally.
Yeah.
I wish I could get money from that. That'd be great.
No, because unless you paid him to take the picture, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the photographer.
I was in a public place.
Yes.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. So he owns it all, and he's getting money, whoever he is. You took a great picture, though, which I use whenever.
Yes, it is a really good picture.
Yeah.
But you're rather photogenic, so it works out.
You know. Right now, I'm half in pajamas drinking my cider.
Yes,
so.
but it's the half that nobody can see because it's under the table.
That is why we are at the table.
Right.
In fact,
Yes,
this is the whole
exactly. Well, I mean,
Buffering. You're getting buffering.
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 I braved the traffic to get here today, and therefore I'm drinking.
The sync is a little off.
It's always a little off.
Yeah, I know. I try. It's the bane of my existence. Oh, let's see.
The only time you need to really be worried about the sink being off is when it falls through the countertop and lands on the floor.
Yeah.
And breaks all the plumbing in the process. Because that's a pain to clean up. And
Yeah. If you are in the chat room, let me know if you're all getting buffering or if that's just Bloyd.
Sploid?
Sployd.
Sploid, yes.
That's also a big talk.
Actually, I think I figured it out. I figured out the proper pronunciation of his name, or his handle rather, is SBLOID. That's it.
That's way too long.
SBLOID.
Yeah, that's too long to say.
Well, it's initials, right? It's
Okay.
Southern Baptist Lech.
Yeah.
OID.
Oi. All right.
No,
Yeah, this way.
that's most of the
So,
questions I'm going to be answering too. So.
talking about Sportive Tricks, this is actually
Yes.
a really great segue into how you became part of the Happy Jacks kind of community.
Okay.
The last two guests we had Jib and then we had Dave, who
Right.
both were part of, like, who were gamers who then were pulled in because of the podcast. You actually knew us all pre-podcast. Or,
No, actually, I mean,
you know the
sort
Boggards.
of,
and
sort
you know,
of, sort of. I
Okay.
mean, okay, so I've been a fan of the Boggards since my wife introduced me to them, in terms of we went to a show together, back in it would have been 2007.
Okay.
And found out about the Boggards and the Wives and the Bells and all these wonderful groups. Just became very much enamored with the style of music that y'all and now we all do. And found out about Stu's Angry Folk and Infantile Comedy podcast.
Right.
So I was listening to that regularly
Okay.
when he announced that he was going to be doing a podcast on gaming. And
Okay.
since I'm also a gamer,
So that was about like 2 years later, because that was like early 2009 that he made that announcement.
something like that. Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it was somewhere in that ilk. I don't know, time frame.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I've been listening since before episode 0.
Wow.
Not to be all hipster on it or anything, but yeah, that was the
OG.
yeah, right, exactly. And then I joined Sportive Tricks in 2009
Mhm.
and started to get to know you guys on a more personal level rather
Right.
than just fanboy in the audience kind of level.
Right. Was that the year you joined Fair?
Yes,
Okay.
I did not work Fair before I joined the band.
That's right. Okay, I
did
kind of
not-
remember
yeah.
that now.
I had been to Fair. I had
Mhm.
been to fairs up in Northern California
Yeah.
and in Southern California, but I only as a patron, as we like to call them.
Yeah. And I remember knowing you, and I remember like being aware of who you were.
Okay.
Not like knowing you,
Right,
but like
pulling
Yeah.
me out of a crowd. kind of,
yeah, like hey,
Well, the
show
one-
up in New York.
I was at one show at Southern Fair, and Liz from the Wives
Mhm.
pulled me up on stage for a verse of
Right.
"Roll Me Away,"
Yeah.
and then that would have been in 2007 because then we went to Casa de Ren Fair that
Mhm.
year as well because I'm originally from Northern California, so it's close to where
It
my
worked.
parents live.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the Wives were performing there as well, and I guess Liz saw a familiar face in the audience and pulled me up again for the same verse.
Yeah. That happened a lot.
So yeah, it's sort of oh, this is odd.
Cool.
But
So then there was kind of that natural progression of like fellow performer, Ren Fair person who, hey, I'm into gaming too, to making that transition.
yeah,
Cool.
basically.
That's awesome.
Gaming has been very good to me. I didn't actually start gaming until after college, but I met my wife through gaming.
Awesome.
So, you know,
So she gamed first.
She did very much so.
Wow.
Yeah, she gamed.
For the gamer ladies. Sorry.
At least starting in college, which means that she would have started probably when she was 17.
Mhm.
But she may have gamed in high school. I don't recall. I didn't know her then. So,
Yeah, you know.
but yeah, we met at a. It was friend of the bride, friend of the groom kind of thing at a
nice.
wedding, and we bonded over gaming and tabletop, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Going to a wedding is the making of another.
Yep.
So
Basically.
true.
It-
All the
it's
wisdom
very
in
true.
folk music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chim chim.
All right.
All right.
So the actual point of this is to talk about gaming,
Yes.
but also just kind of who we are as people.
Mhm.
So you GM.
Yes.
So why don't we start in that place? Like you're GMing Wild Talents because it's amazing.
Among other things, yes.
But so
I'm a
tell
little
me-
crazy at the moment. I'm currently playing in 3 campaigns and running 3 campaigns.
Oh my God, you're crazier than me. I'm
In
in
3
5
different
campaigns,
systems.
but I'm not running any of them.
But in a grand total of 4 different systems.
Wow.
But because I'm running a game in, surprise, surprise, shocker here, Vampire the Masquerade. I know, right?
No.
That's set in World War One.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got really enamored with the history of World War One in 2014
Nice.
with the 100th anniversary of it and everything. And
Wonder Woman's in World War One. The new Wonder
I'm
Woman.
really liking that twist they're putting on it. Actually, yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Sorry, not too flavor.
No, not at all. But just the sheer improbability of how World War One came about,
Right.
and then and how it was completely different from anything that the world had ever seen before. My father's a history teacher, so
Nice.
this sort of, like your penchant for running games in historical contexts.
Yes.
I grew up with a lot of this by osmosis kind of thing, but just the sheer improbability of all things World War One, just
Right.
So I thought, well, what if you took these creatures that have been around for decades, hundreds of years, and throw them into this environment which no one has ever seen before, but in particular, creatures that have been around the block for a while would totally think that they've got a handle on this. And then somebody's firing an MG42, which, okay, right, yeah, for the history nerds in the audience, yes, I know that's a World War II gun, but something equivalent.
Yes.
Some sort of machine gun at you, and mustard gas.
Yeah.
So the campaign's title is actually called Blood and Mustard.
Nice.
Okay, so that's one of the games.
Let's stick on that for a second.
All right.
So, because we want to partition this out a little bit.
Okay.
So that's one of the ones you're running. You're jamming
Yes.
that one.
Right.
So what happens to a vampire when they're mustard gassed?
Fortunately for my players, none of them have come into contact with mustard gas, but one of the players' sire did.
Okay.
So I got to sort of give them a hint of what this new dangerous world has in store for them without physically affecting any one of their characters.
Interesting.
And mustard gas is absolutely horrible stuff. There's a reason why it's banned by the Geneva Convention. There are many reasons. It doesn't matter if you can't breathe.
Right.
Because it affects mucous membranes and skin, which even undead creatures have.
Yes.
And causes horrible, aggravated damage. Which, to use the terminology of the system.
Yes.
So, one of the characters got to see her sire carried in after having been exposed to this stuff, and not only did it affect him physically, but the pain that was so much greater than anything he had ever experienced in his however many hundreds of years kind of drove him a little mad.
Oh.
So there's both the physical and the psychological aspect that, again, I didn't have to inflict on any one of my players,
Right.
but gave them that idea of crap. Stuff just got real.
Right.
So yeah.
I think that's one of the most powerful things in a vampire game, because it's so easy to think, oh, hey, I'm like immortal. I'm
I
super
have
powerful.
fortitude.
I have all the
Bring it
fortitude
on!
ever.
Right. Exactly.
But so you have to kind of have that other element. Stu's like a master of this, of making us terrified of everything, which results in like 3-hour conversations about where we're gonna step next. But yeah.
Get that too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually a sign of a good vampire game, because it's about that. But I love that you incorporated the mustard gas that way, because like you said,
It is one of the most iconic things about World War One.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah, and it would have been lame for them to just be able to blow off and be like, well, I'm holding my breath. Like, it's great.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's great that-
yes, you don't have to breathe
Yeah.
unless you want to talk.
Yes.
That's the only time you have to breathe is if you want to talk, or I guess blow on something. But yeah, but it doesn't matter. The mucous membranes in your nose, your throat, your mouth, your eyes, your inside your ears, all of this, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And plus it was also a gangrel who got hit, and they're hardy folk. They have the fortitude and such. So the fact that he was affected this badly really drove it home.
Yeah.
Even more so.
Yeah, and that's great, because then it puts your players kind of on edge and they're more careful.
Well, I don't know
about your players. Yeah. So what is your player makeup for that game as far as the clans?
Okay, so I actually just recently restarted the campaign after about a year, give or take, hiatus.
Wait, pause. How do you get people back in the groove after a year?
Well, first of all, you find out whether there's any interest in it.
Yeah.
And since this same gaming group is sort of involved in most of the other games that I'm playing in, I have regular contact with them.
Yes.
I mean, one of the players is my wife. Another one of the players is my roommate. So, okay, there's 2 out of the 5 right there. So it was fairly easy to establish, yes, people are interested in revisiting this world. Okay, cool. We just had our second session after restart. And the first thing is, blessedly, my wife takes very good notes for the games, and to the point where I don't. I mean, I take a couple little notes for myself, but for the most part, I can remember enough that combining my memory with her notes is enough. And so what we started with was just her reading her notes of the last, just sort of, okay, where were we when we left off?
So they came in as the same character.
They did come in as the same characters, not just the same characters, but we picked up right where we left off.
Oh wow!
There wasn't a delay, no time lapse, nothing. It was, okay, this is where you were. You were in Odessa, port city on the Black Sea, and you're heading to find this thing, and there's this NPC who just showed up who would very much like your help in doing some research.
Okay.
So, cool, now go. Everybody's, memory is refreshed, and we can go from there. And now the 2 complications, other than the obvious of how do you get back into this character and everything like that, are one of my players decided to abandon his character at the end of where we left off because he really wasn't a team player. Okay. Not the player. The player tries very hard to be a team player, but the character really wasn't.
I have no idea what it's like to play in a game with a person like that.
No names, please.
Stork.
Because Stork's listening, right?
Yeah.
No.
Stork's like, what is Twitch? Like this? Like, what's wrong? Why does Kimmy have a Twitch? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand.
But in the
right, so,
lane of players who are good, but their characters are not team players.
Right. So, he decided to abandon that character, so he has created a new character.
Okay.
So he did not come in with the same character. He came in with a brand new character, which, of course, I had to introduce a new character.
Right.
And getting vampires to trust one another to begin with is tough, and now you've got 4 of them who kind of do trust each other, and a new guy, a new challenger has entered the ring, kind of thing. And so he's been having some difficulty, and we've only had 2 sessions, but he's had that challenge of ingratiating himself with another group. And to complicate matters further, this is a Camarilla-based game, and he's playing one of the independent clans. He's playing a Sedite.
Oh.
Who are...
The chat room is super disappointed, by the way, that you're not running a Sabbat game. Actually, they were like, good thing it's not a Sabbat game, because that doesn't count.
Right, yeah, we'll get to that. So, yeah, Sedites aren't exactly trusted. They're think of a used car salesman. And that's most vampires' impression of a Sedite, except instead of dealing in used cars, although he might be doing that as well, think more drugs, sex, illicit anything, money laundering, whatever, because their whole deal is in convincing people to debase themselves and give in to their vices. And corrupting others that way. So, yes, Kurt is running a Camarilla game.
Shocking! Someone drug him.
You know why? We'll get to that later. Anyway, so then I've got another new player who was interested in joining the game, and I thought that one of my original players wasn't going to be able to rejoin the game.
Yeah, that's how you get games with like 10 players.
Right. I thought she wasn't going to be able to rejoin the game because she's now a grad student and a teacher at Loyola Marymount, which is kind of far away from where we game and play and live in Whittier. Yeah. But no, she could join, and I was like, well, I can't be a dick and say, no, you can't play with us anymore. Yeah. So okay, now I have 6 players.
Yeah.
And did a really cool thing actually with this one is this game is set in 1914. They went into a crypt that they found researching for old archaic stuff, and they found in there a corpse that did not look as old as everything else that was there.
Yeah.
Like everything else looked like it hadn't been disturbed in at least 500 years. This guy looks kind of like he could have died last week. Oh, and there's a big hunk of wood sticking out of his chest.
Oh, I wonder who he is.
Right.
Yeah.
So fast forward an hour of real time, they finally figure out how to unstake the guy and and bring him back. And oh, there's our new player character. Right, exactly.
Nice.
So
Nice
now we have the man out of time kind of thing as well, because
Oh.
and it's been this isn't spoiler for my players. He got staked in that crypt in the year 1225.
Oh.
And now it's 1914, and
Yeah.
he's going to have some major problems. For instance, fortunately, he speaks a couple of languages that still exist,
Okay, that's good.
but it's Greek and Arabic,
Oh,
and most of the players
don't Greek
speak.
or Arabic.
Yeah, it's like one speaks Greek and one speaks Arabic.
Ah, okay.
So we're going to have some maturation time or downtime where he learns another language.
Yes.
So that's how we've been getting back into the swing of things.
Right.
Yeah. So
I've been thinking actually about that topic a lot because Stu is considering revisiting our Inukai game.
I heard.
So it's one of those things.
And Proby Tim took my spot, damn it.
Oh, I know.
Not that I was promised a spot or even offered a spot. Just,
or Stu even started the game
right.
or anything.
Not that anything actually
has
exists.
happened, other than Stu saying, maybe I'll do another Inukai game, and the entire chat room freaking out once.
Yeah, because that was an awesome game.
It was such
Both
a
of
good
them.
game.
They were. It was fun to listen to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was really sad when that game died. The first season of
It kind of came to a natural conclusion.
Yeah, and oh my god, it was so good, and it was the first campaign I'd been in that actually came to an end like that. It's like this is a nice theatrical ending, and we all wrote endings for our characters, super depressing ones, but
except for Dave.
Except for Dave, because he was like, "Oh my god,
all of these are super depressing." I have to write an upbeat one.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, because I remember like one of the last times I was on the podcast, I was talking about I had just come to the end of the natural end of a campaign, and it was really nice to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's so rare.
It really is. Things usually, the reason I had to stop my 1914 game was because it was too much was going on in my life. Oh, we were recording, and I was co-producing the album. So at that point, we were doing 3 nights a week.
Oh yeah, no, that's a lot.
So I was like, I don't have any time to prep this game anymore. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Like I'll still play, but I can't prep for running anymore. Right. And then there were 3 other people who wanted to run games. So it's like, okay, you can have your turn now. And
that's good.
So
that's cool.
I run for a lot of GMs, which can be a different kind of challenge.
All right, so on to a topic that I thought of while we were talking. What is it like to game with your spouse?
Okay.
Because GMing for your spouse is super brave, and I know a lot of people who've done this, but I don't know.
Okay, it hasn't been a problem for us. I mean, I've only been married for 1 year and a couple of weeks at this point.
Right.
Oh,
newlyweds.
Yeah, still newlyweds. Yeah. Exactly. But I mean, we've been together off and on for 10 years. So, it hasn't been a problem yet. Fortunately, both of us are fairly decent at communicating to each other, even. And so if there is a problem, we'll talk about it. While I encourage, or rather don't discourage PvP in my games, I don't discourage it, but I don't really push for it. And the thing that I think probably produces the most problems when running with or for a spouse is romantic interests are rarely a trope in my games.
Okay.
So I'm not really ever playing the romantic counterpart to a player character.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that would be a problem with my wife
Right.
anyway.
Right.
Because fortunately I married an incredibly non-jealous woman. And so, yay.
Yeah.
But that I can see being like the biggest cause of problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a trope that I go into in my games very much.
Right.
Now, if two player characters want to pursue a budding romance, more power to you.
Right.
Fine. And I have had that in one of my previous games.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
but it hasn't really been a problem. I do find myself, and it has been brought to my attention by some of the other players,
Okay.
that I don't necessarily favor my wife in terms of giving her more time,
Mm-hmm.
but I am reticent to cut her off.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm reticent
Totally
to
get
cut
that.
almost anyone off,
Right.
but of course, perception is reality, and how people see how I deal with an extremely. Now, she's an extremely proactive player.
Mm-hmm.
She's very much a Type A gamer.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll be the one asking all of the questions,
Okay.
which
I've
does
noticed
make
that.
it which does make it easier as a GM.
Yeah.
Proactive players make a GM's job much easier.
Yeah.
It's-
I feel bad because I think the only game I've ever played in her in with her
Mhm.
was Bill's Grim game
Mhm.
that I ended up sobbing in and like running out of the room crying
Oh.
because of like drama. But
Mm.
and I'm like, oh, I probably should play a game with her so she didn't think I'm a crazy person. But
She doesn't.
Okay.
I'm. She thinks you're an awesome crafter.
okay, well,
For
that's
one.
good. It's like the
And
best
she is a
compliment I get.
crafter. She
I
is a
know.
crafter,
She is.
so
She's amazing.
she knows of what she speaks.
Yeah.
Um,
So the yes, I see questions. Thank you. If you're in the chat room, just a reminder. Like I kind of scan it, but people start having other conversations. So if you have a question, write question in caps so that I like pick up on it in my peripheral vision.
So should we finish off the questions that have already been asked before we get into the questions
Well,
that are on there?
this one is tied in with what we just talked about.
Okay,
So,
all right.
ever have any favoritism as far as which you sort of already answered, but my experiences with having couples, like one couple run, one part of the couple play, has been favoritism in combat.
Oh, no.
None of that.
No.
Okay.
No. The dice are the adjudicator.
Okay.
I will tell you what the dice mean,
Mm-hmm.
but the dice rule.
Okay.
And that doesn't matter who the player is, or for that matter, me.
Right.
Because I'll roll and it's like, wow, you are so lucky as I look at, 7 ones.
Yeah.
So
I played a game once with people who shall remain nameless, and it was a newer relationship.
Okay.
And the person running the game would we were having a combat, and the other person, the significant other, was right in front of them, and they started attacking people way out of and I don't know if they were consciously doing it, but it was just okay, the very obvious target is your SO right in front of you. Why are you shooting me when I'm in the road behind you hiding? It was a little bit we all kind of hand waved because it was a one shot, and we're we understand what's happening. You will get laid later. We will suffer through this for you. This is our friendship talking. But
No, the fortunate thing is, and I've heard horror stories about gaming with significant others and things like that. Not just through the podcast, but from friends of mine.
right.
And I have run for couples
Mhm.
before. Sometimes I specifically chose a couple to
Uh-huh.
run for, saying I'd love to see your dynamic.
Yeah.
Um,
I regretted it.
no, not at all. Not in the slightest. I got very, very lucky in meeting Mary and marrying her because she doesn't truck with that kind of drama nonsense.
Mhm.
And one of the many reasons why I married her.
Yes.
So
Excellent.
So I hit the lottery on that one. So
Nice. Yeah. My husband is a video gamer. He played one game
I
with
used to
us
be.
one time. Yeah. Oh, there's only so many hours in a day. And I think he'd be into it. He just doesn't have the time to really do a campaign, and I don't know. So I'm sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm glad.
I also think that it's important for couples to have their own interests separate from each other.
Oh yeah.
Because if nothing else, it means you have something to talk about that the other person doesn't already know about.
Yes.
If no other reason.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, she has her various interests, and I have mine, and then we have shared interests.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Our stuff is like very complimentary, like cosplayer, photographer.
Ah!
So all right. So the chat room thought that was a really interesting vein there, and I think that's something like we talk about on the podcast a lot, but it's neat to have someone who's like in that dynamic to share with.
Okay.
So awesome. So tell me about another campaign.
Okay, so running the Vampire the Masquerade in 1914, running a Wild Talents campaign.
Let's talk about that one.
Okay, so that is in a world setting that I've created from scratch.
Okay.
Well, kind of from scratch, because there is nothing.
Yeah.
There are no new ideas. There are only 37 plots. Everything is a rehash of something from before,
yeah.
But it is something that I have created, and it is pulling a little bit from some of the established Wild Talents canon, but a different twist on it. And the essential element of it is that superpowered beings have been an element of folklore for as long as there has been folklore, right? And unless you're talking about demigods who may or may not have existed, if you're actually talking about real...
Are you kidding? My son
maybe,
has a bottle opener.
Of course. maybe someone like Theseus or Heracles or someone like that existed, but Gilgamesh. Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Boudica, right. Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Sure, right. Okay. They were people who were extraordinarily skilled, but they didn't have superpowers. They were just the right person at the right time, or if they were superpowers, it was like Joan of Arc.
Yeah.
Right. In which case, you can make the argument that she was endowed by divine providence, or she was talking to the voices in her head.
Yeah.
But whichever, it worked for her. Right. Okay. But the premise of this world setting is that in 1984 or 5, I can't remember exactly, but the world's first actual superpowered human showed up, and she was Irish.
Oh, of course she was.
And she was from a little town in Ireland, and she had wonderful nature connection to nature and things like that, and she just wanted to be left alone. And then the second superpowered human showed up, and she was African, and had connection to basically seismic or volcanic events. And her arrival on the scene was felt from Cairo to Johannesburg in the form of a massive earthquake centered on Kilimanjaro. And she decided to use her powers to organize a Pan-African Union in the 80s. And more people started showing up with these superpowers, and some of them wanted to be just left alone. Some of them wanted to use their powers to further an agenda, whether that be good or ill. And some people just want to watch the world burn. So we have this guy who I got the name from a tire, not from the show Heroes, Frank Pirelli, who detonated himself in the middle of Frontierland in Walt Disney World, killing dozens. And it was like, okay, this is no longer a thing that can be controlled. Yeah. And so now we've got these 4 players who are superpowered individuals in their own right. And I've got a sort of, they pull from tropes, right? It's like come up with an idea. So I've got a Gambit clone.
Okay.
I've got a Nightcrawler clone, except she is not blue and furry.
Okay.
Actually, her original costume she described as like Halle Berry's from Catwoman,
Okay.
which is basically a whole lot of belts
Yeah.
in strategic places.
Yeah.
We found out that was horribly inconvenient, so we got her a real costume.
Okay, good.
That actually has armor value to it.
Oh, good.
LAR value.
Yeah,
so.
not just like the womb like magic that supposedly.
Right. Yeah, no.
protects your open
She's basically now wearing motorcycle leathers that have that same sort of lots of belts look.
Okay.
And then we've got a guy who can manipulate gravity.
Mhm.
I didn't have the heart to tell him that gravity, as one of the 4 fundamental forces of nature, is the weakest of them.
Yeah.
But that's what he wanted to do. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And the 4th player is my wife, who is she can talk to and manifest for all to see ghosts. Because I pulled from the Grim War supplement to Wild Talents for that, and she really liked that idea of being able to. She's a medium who actually can really talk to spirits, and we'll get into more of how that works. She also has a little other extra stuff under the hood, but now for Wild Talents, none of them had ever played the system before.
Right.
So I let them talk to me about what they wanted their characters to be able to do, and then I built the character.
Okay.
With them.
Yeah.
With them. It's like, okay, so, what are you good at? What are you pretty, okay, we'll put some points in here, we'll put some points in here, and this is what your power is, and there you go.
Nice.
And now we've gotten 4 sessions under our belt. They have XP to spend, and they can spend that however they want.
Nice.
And they're so far liking the Yahtzee mechanic. It's working out for them. It's funny though, because we'll go from that and we'll go to the vampire game, and they're both D10 dice pool systems, and they'll roll, and it's like, wow, if only we were playing Wild Talents, because I got 6 2s.
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't do me a whole lot of good here, but that would be awesome in Wild Talents.
Yes. Oh, yay, D10 systems. Because really, it just simplifies
It does.
the stuff you have to own.
And then the 3rd campaign, I just started. We haven't actually even had our first session. All we have had so far is character creation, is a traveler game that I'm playing with 4 noobs.
All right.
They're total. I mean, they're absolutely newbie players, and none of them had ever heard of Traveler, and none of them really play. One of them is also in my Wild Talents game, but they've played maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Are you playing the new 2nd edition?
No, we didn't. No, and we're not playing straight Traveler because I've reskinned it.
Oh, okay.
For because I spent so much time researching the time period anyway.
Right.
I've reskinned it back to 1914, so it's a tech level 4.
Oh,
it's Traveler in tech level 4.
Interesting.
How
does that?
Well, I mean, you do have ships.
Yeah.
They go on water.
Yeah.
You do have guns, just no ray guns, no
Okay.
lasers.
Okay.
You do have, I had to go through all of the careers and figure out how to, like, okay, well, you don't get astrogation, you don't get computers, you don't get, these skills aren't available. So what would be a prudent substitute? I had to obviously get rid of pilot from the Navy, because yes, there were pilots in 1914. There were planes had been around for 11 years, but it was still fairly uncommon.
Yeah.
And then I realized, just based on how much work it would have been to completely reskin the Marines, Space Marines, I just got rid of them entirely. And then I realized, wait, no, the Marines are just part of the Navy. They're soldiers on ships.
Yeah.
Oh no!
That's okay. Luckily, we weren't using that camera right then.
Oh, that's good. We'll see how this
That's fine.
probably needs to be.
We'll just leave it. It's fine. We'll just stick on this cam.
We'll see how that.
Super professional. I like a can of paint with some duct tape rolls that the camera's sitting on top of. It's very.
We should have used the duct tape to tape the camera to the can of paint.
I'm actually gonna take a picture. I'll post it on Instagram so you guys can all see it. It'll be beautiful. Excellent.
Those are the 3 campaigns I'm running, and then I'm playing in 2 other vampire games and a D&D 5e game.
Nice. Now, what kind of drove you to the madness of playing Traveler in Tech Level 4 rather than just picking a different system?
I had tried running Traveler before,
Mhm.
and I didn't know the setting well enough to make it work.
Okay.
It wasn't a problem with the mechanics. I just didn't know the setting well enough to be able to run a cohesive game.
Mhm.
So it fell apart after about 2 sessions.
Uh-huh.
But I really wanted to try again.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, if it has to be a setting, if the problem is, it took me a while to realize that the problem was I didn't know the setting. If I can work it in a setting that I've already done a hell of a lot of research into, then I'll probably be more successful at this.
Cool.
And so I've already done a hell of a lot of research on World War One, so we'll set it there.
Nice.
And instead of being from different planets, you're from different countries.
Mhm.
You know,
That makes
you're
sense. Yeah.
you're from the Ottoman Empire, you're from the Russian Empire, you're from the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Kingdom of Serbia, the Kingdom of Greece, the Kingdom of Romania, whatever.
Yeah.
The British Empire, French, whatever. So yeah, it was, and I wanted to introduce a bunch of new players to the most kick-ass, best character creation system the world has ever known. Ever. It's
So
and,
much fun.
and they kind of didn't. They're like, okay, it sounds interesting. And at the end, before the end of it, by the third term,
Mhm.
they were, this is amazing. This is
It's
awesome.
fun, I know.
And I mean, one of the guys went 7 terms. No, 8.
8.
He went 8
Wow.
terms. And so I mean, he's playing like what, a 50-year-old, 46,
Yeah.
50-year-old, 50-year-old. He's playing a 50-year-old in Traveler.
Yeah. My friend.
And no Anagathics.
Yeah. One of my friends who's actually not in the Happy Jacks community, it just started a Traveler campaign a few, like 2 months before we did. And I was talking to him about it because none of them had ever played before. And I'm like, character creation is the best. And he gets back to me. He's like, so I'm a really old man. Like, he's like amazingly like skilled at everything.
Oh yeah.
But I forget which thing he like screwed up on. So he has like, so he's incredibly skilled, but he had some sort of like deficit. So it ended up that they just had him have Alzheimer's. So he randomly has blackouts where he doesn't remember. I don't remember how he rolled that, but it was like one of the things he rolled.
Mhm.
So they just contributed to Alzheimer's. So randomly he'll be out of the game for a while and back, depending on roll. I forget what it is. But he was just like, you were not kidding about the thing.
It
like,
really,
at
they all 4 of them were just like, this is even the guy whose dice were worse than Stork's. He could not make he could not make a survival roll
Mhm.
to save his life. First of all 4 of them,
Mhm.
no, 3 of them, sorry, 3 of them started out in the Marines.
Oh.
All 3 of them did not survive their first term.
They all
all failed. The Marines are,
Yeah.
they're tough, right?
Yeah.
So, and these guys aren't that tough apparently. So all 3 of them, the one female player didn't try for the Marines, but she also failed her first term. It just wasn't in the Marines.
Oh,
So
man.
yeah, it was just like none of them could roll for crap.
Crazy.
It was, but they still loved it.
Yeah.
They didn't care. I mean, at first they were like, oh man, but they really got into it. It was like, this is awesome. This is all this. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's very cool. We discovered when we were doing our character creation that you can't just die in character creation anymore.
No.
I think if you go to, I think we figured out that if you go to prison, you can.
Yes, because they don't give you Anagathics.
Right. But other than that,
Yeah.
it's
But
not as
in
deadly
second
anymore.
edition, prison is an option.
Yeah.
First edition, it's not.
Right.
And neither is university. I'm really interested in the idea of playing in a second edition game. My friendly local gaming stores don't have it, all 3 of them. So, but one of them is willing to order it for me.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's what you gotta do.
Because the Warhouse is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
It was that was by the way the gaming store that Stu grew up with was the Warhouse.
The Warhouse
It's
in
still
Long
there.
Beach, yeah.
It's still there. It's still in the exact same place. Still run by the same guy who still, I swear to God, has inventory that is there from when Stu was gaming
like,
there in the 70s.
Absolutely.
Because he doesn't throw anything out. He'll just, I mean, you can look at the price tag. It's yellowed, and it's like, really? This is
The
$3?
price tag is older
I'll
than
take
me.
it. Yeah, exactly. It is.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, go ahead. It
When
gets
I
it
was in
out of
Long
my
Beach-
inventory.
Yeah, I went there.
So,
So now I want to kind of switch away from you talking about your games. You can come back to that later if you want, but I want to make sure we get to some of the
I'm done.
questions.
I'm done with those.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Unless people have questions about them.
It doesn't seem like we have any in the chat room at the moment, other than How can they roll worse than Stork's dice? How do you roll negatives?
It's not so much a matter of they roll worse; they roll more consistently worse. Because Stork will get good rolls occasionally, and this one guy
more than we
he
could give him credit
could
for.
not. Just could not roll above a 5 at all.
Yeah, just couldn't do it.
No, it was really sad.
Oh, well,
But he's looking forward to it. He's got it. I mean, he had to take injury. He got injuries on things, so he like at a certain point, I think all of his physical stats got dropped to 3.
oh my god,
it was really
that's
bad.
really bad.
Yeah.
At that point, you're just like, please let me die. Please let me die. I don't want to play this character.
He got enough money to buy some of them back up
Oh,
at the end. I let him buy them back up at the to heal injuries. But yeah.
All right.
So
So questions from our forum, and if
Yes.
you have questions, you can chime in the chat room.
just put the question
Questions
in all caps.
so I
so
know
we-
to look at
We
it.
see them.
So this one's from Sployd, who's also in the chat room.
SBLOID. Yes.
Great. Kurt, why are you such a Sabat fanboy? And why does that make you? Part of the cancer that killed Vampire the Masquerade?
Well, for the first part of the question, I am a Sabat fanboy for 2 reasons. One, it's the very first role-playing game I ever played.
Mhm.
I started gaming out of college, after college,
Right.
and a buddy of mine from college had got me interested in and got me a spot into his game that he was playing in, which was Vampire the Masquerade, set in World War II, or rather 1938, so pre-World War II, just barely.
Yeah.
And it was a Sabat game.
Nice.
Now, they had previously played in a Camarilla game, and they were trying out Sabat. That game ran for 2.5 years, and I played 4 different characters over my 2 years in that game.
Wow.
And it's just become the thing I know the best. Now, the other part of that is I like Sabat because of flexibility.
Okay.
Camarilla has a lot of stricture, not only on what you can do as a vampire, but any of the clans that you can play in Camarilla, you can also play in the Sabat as Antitribu. And then you get Serpents of the Light, Shimisi, Lasombra. I am a total Shimisi fanboy, by the way. I love the Shimisi.
So for a vampire noob, what is Antitribu?
Antitribu, Antitribu is anti-tribu.
Okay.
As in, like,
Anti-tribu.
against the tribe.
Okay.
Right, exactly. So these are vampires who have, for whatever reason, broken with the main clan for whatever reason, and do not truck with the, for the most part, do not truck with the philosophies espoused by the Camarilla. There are Antitribu that are not Sabat, but we don't talk about them. There's Lasombra and Antitribu in the Camarilla,
right,
but they're such a statistical insignificant minority that it's not worth really mentioning.
Okay.
So they've broken because they don't like, for whatever reason, but they like the freedoms that the Sabat allows. And the Sabat is ruled very much by the Shimisi and the Lasombra. And I really like that darker edge in a world of personal horror, that darker edge that Shadowmancers and Fleshcrafters bring to the game. And so, although I have no piercings, no tattoos, no scarification, and I have no interest whatsoever getting that in my real life,
Right.
I love the idea of the Shimisi, the flesh crafting, the Zulo form, all of this. So that's why I'm a Sabat fanboy.
Nice.
To the second part of your question, I reject the premise of your question because 20th anniversary edition, they brought back the game. I believe that what the cancer that led to the downfall of White Wolf was New World of Darkness, because they had a massive thing that had a huge amount of following and resource material, and then they decided, well, we're going to completely rework it into a New World of Darkness. And if they had just reworked the mechanics, because the mechanics in New World are streamlined. They are in some cases better,
Mhm.
and they do make it so that the various different species of supernaturals, vampires, werewolves, geists, they have magi, Prometheans, whatever else. They work together. They work all in the same system. You can actually bring all of these different species into the same game.
Mhm.
In Old World Darkness, it's really hard. You can do it, but if you use werewolf rules and build yourself a werewolf and bring them into a vampire game, unless you're dealing with elder vampires, that one werewolf will take out a party of vampires like that.
Really?
Yes. And the only thing that the vampires have available to them is one, their age, because werewolves are not immortal, and
So-
two, mortal contacts.
So how do vampires kill werewolves?
Silver helps.
Okay.
Fire always helps if you have it available
I'm
to
gonna
you,
write these down.
and teamwork.
Oh, okay.
Teamwork is that is the crucial thing, is not just within your own player characters, but bringing your mortal resources to bear.
Okay.
You
So if
play Adventure.
4 vampires got together
Mhm.
against a werewolf and we had some silver jewelry, we might be able to take him down. Like
It-
badass silver jewelry, like designed by the best Toyota designer ever. This is not all hypothetical.
This has no bearing whatsoever
bearing
on
whatsoever.
any game that
On
might or
anything.
might not be played on a facsimile of Catalina Island.
Yeah. And luckily, I don't think Stu listens or watches these. So.
What my recommendation on that is that silver melts at a fairly low temperature, and you can coat a blade with it.
Oh. What about like silver bullets? Too?
Silver bullets are also good, yeah. And that is one of the things, is that bullets do more damage to a werewolf than they do to a vampire.
Oh.
Bullets are considered bashing damage for a vampire unless they hit the head.
Oh.
And they're considered lethal damage for pretty much everything else in the World of Darkness.
He did not spoil the moat. Stop it. Shh.
I have not even listened to most of the recent episodes of The Moat of Sin, so I can't possibly
Yeah.
spoil anything.
Everything, right.
So yeah, it's yeah, that.
It would probably drive you crazy.
Now,
You probably should.
now
Anyway.
by comparison, you bring a mage
Mhm.
into werewolf or vampire, and as long as the mage can get in the first shot, the mage will probably wipe the floor with either the werewolf or the vampire. But mages are glass cannons.
So like little old lady mages? That
Sure.
May or may
Uh-huh.
not. Okay.
May or may not exist on the facsimile of
That
Catalina
may or may
Island.
not be on our side. Hypothetical
They are-
island.
The way that mage is constructed, mages are very much glass cannons. Now there are exceptions to all of these things, but you know, I brought a mage in as an antagonist to a game where I had 4,000-year-old vampires, 1,000-year-old vampires. There were 6th gen. I put them up against
Jeez.
one mage.
Uh-huh.
And the first thing the mage did was they attacked him. Well, first of all, stupid for them, they attacked him in his center of power, because they didn't know any better,
Ah,
right?
Okay.
And so they get into this room that has it's this massive circular room, and there's this magic circle drawn on the floor, and they're on one end, they're on the south end of the room, and he's on the north end of the room.
Mhm.
And the first thing he does, because he has sufficient sphere of
Reptile,
forces, is he says, "South is now down."
Oh.
And now they're not 30 feet away from him, they're 30 feet
Under
below
him.
him.
Yeah.
and he's able to throw anything he wants at them, and while they have to climb up this 30-foot sheer tiled surface.
Mhm.
They did destroy the mage,
Mhm.
but it took a lot of work for them to do it, and it was a challenge, and they were able to,
Mhm.
claim a legitimate victory.
Yeah.
It was not an easy thing for them. But when you can literally reshape reality
Right.
with a thought,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what the concept of the tapestry in Mage the Awakening is.
Right.
You can reshape reality with a thought, and the only thing that limits you is your belief has to trump the belief of other people in the general vicinity
Mhm.
of what is real.
Real. Yeah.
And if you have enough willpower, then you can do that.
Wow.
So yeah, but
So melt down our silver jewelry. The thing's gonna fall again.
not my fault. That one wasn't my
Just
fault.
don't put it back.
Okay,
We're not gonna use it.
All right, we're not gonna go to that second camera.
Yeah.
B
No
unit,
more
you're
second
fired.
camera. Done review. And don't mess with the old lady. Okay. I mean.
Oh,
hopefully
so
they have
actually,
another
that's
one.
what the Wild Talents game started with pre-gen, so they could get an idea. And one of the characters I created for that was a septuagenarian grandmother who basically was invulnerable, and I called her Invincible Grandma.
Nice.
And they had so much fun with that
That's so
character.
It's so fun.
I ran that at the con too, and Jib played opposite Invincible Grandma. He wasn't playing as Invincible Grandma, but that was a lot of fun. And that was one of Mary's ideas. I was like, I need ideas for superheroes.
I
And
think I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
and just like, all right, here you go, because
Yeah.
she's total comic book nerd and such. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so these are some quick fire questions.
quick fire questions.
So
Okay.
these are from Tomes, also in the chat room.
Mhm.
Favorite game you played in the last year? Why?
Favorite game I played in the last year. There's been so many.
Person that comes to your mind, go.
Okay, the one that's actually coming to mind is Patrick Rowley's Fate game. That it was actually the second time I played in it, but we got a hell of a lot farther. This was at the convention in September, and it was his Pacific Rim Fate game.
Nice.
And it's my favorite because I played in the first one, and this was basically the exact same premise, but I got to see more of it, and I got to actually finish it, and I mean, come on, Mecha versus Kaiju. What's not to love, right? You know.
All right. Favorite game you've jammed in the last year and why?
Favorite game of GM.
First thing that comes to your mind, go.
The Wild Talents game I ran in September. I only had 2 players. It was Jib and one other guy that I can't remember his name. And it was Invincible Grandma and
That's where I heard about that.
yeah,
Okay,
Invincible Grandma and Rick Chill, who was basically an Iceman clone. And that was just so much fun because of the interplay between the characters.
Nice. Perfect.
So, and spoiling a bank heist.
Yeah.
So.
Game you'd most like to play in the next year?
I would like. I just got a whole bunch of new Jim Pinto games, and I'd love to run or play in one of them. I would also like to actually play in a mage or a demon game, and my wife is trying to organize to actually run either a mage or a demon game. I don't know which one. She's not sure yet. So,
Awesome.
But yeah, that would be awesome.
Cool. And game you'd most like to run in the next year?
I'd like to actually run the 3 campaigns I'm currently running because scheduling has been such a problem. I'd like to actually run them.
Excellent. That's a good answer. It's a good answer. There's a couple of standing questions that I always ask.
Okay.
So if magically Stu decided to move to Tahiti and you suddenly became the person in charge of Happy Jack's media empire, what would you change about the podcast and why?
Well, it wouldn't be centered in Pasadena.
That's a cheater answer. That can be your answer.
Okay, fine. What would I change about the Happy Jacks podcast? I would try to get more interviews with game designers.
Okay.
He's had a few with Steve Jackson and with Shane Hensley and such, but I know I'm gonna mispronounce her name, Kiva Snow, who does the what is it called? The Queen's Cavaliers.
Okay.
Who's written the Queen's Cavaliers system and setting, which is fascinating, an absolutely fascinating setting that she's created. It would be cool to get an interview with Jim Pinto. I played a couple of games of his at the last con with him. Yeah. And he's a character. He's an absolute character. I think he and Stu would get along really well. Yeah. But Stu's not in this picture, so I think he would get along really well. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I played in 3 of his games, so he seems to like me.
That's good. Awesome. That makes sense. I like that suggestion. Yeah. That's a good one. Exploit in the chat room wants to know New World of Darkness Demon or Old World of Darkness Demon from what you were talking about a few minutes ago with.
I don't
She
know.
wanted to run.
Does New World of Darkness Demon exist? Old World of Darkness. I'm talking Demon the Fallen.
Mm-hmm.
And which was unfortunately brought out just, I want to say, about a year before they did the switch.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a wonderful premise that just got cut short by scheduling of when they were ending the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the idea. That was part of the premise, is that this was sort of the last sigil, the last sign of the apocalypse, that demons were inhabiting the world. But I would definitely go Old World on that. I generally prefer the Old World fluff much more.
Okay.
They've done way too much codifying of truth in New World. Now there's God Chronicles now that they've come up with, and I don't really know what to make of that one. So.
Okay. Cool.
New World of Darkness Demon is very different. Everything in New World of Darkness is very different.
Very
So, like I said, they just codified too much truth in New World. So.
Yeah. So, hi, Weasel Creature Child. Hi.
I ran into Weasel Creature at an SCA war that I was at just last month, and it was like, I know you. Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So we have a bunch of other questions, but they're not really gaming related, so I'm going to save them for the end.
Okay, I was going to say bring them on, but whatever.
Oh yeah, no, we'll get there. Okay, here's a good question that we generally ask too. You can only ever play or run one game system ever again, and it's not World of Darkness, either one.
It's not World of Darkness. Well,
Yeah.
Wild Talents.
Okay.
The one roll engine.
The one roll engine.
If you're talking about a system, the one roll engine.
Mhm.
If you're talking about a setting, probably Wild Talents, because
Yeah.
superheroes. I mean, what's not to love about that?
Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
superheroes in a world gone mad.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
the crucial element.
So I want to go back. There was a question earlier. So wait, where did it go?
Exploit asked a lot of questions in the forum.
You did. That's okay. There was one relating to your LARPing experience. Oh, here we
Okay.
go.
Yes,
What is your favorite?
I am a damn dirty LARPer.
You are. That's okay.
Yes.
So why don't we start? Just give some context first.
Okay.
So, because their question was, what's your favorite method of conflict resolution? But for those who may or may not be familiar with LARPing, what is LARPing, Kurt? Tell us what
Live
LARPing
action
is.
role playing. This is something that I got into because of my wife.
Mhm.
She has been LARPing with the Artorian Order of Knights of Pendragon since she was a freshman in college.
Okay.
It's called AOKP,
Mhm.
Artorian Order of the Knights of Pendragon. And she introduced me to that, and I spent half a year getting to know the people
Mm-hmm.
and just, hanging out with people on a social level beforehand and sort of learning about things before I decided, yes, this is a thing I want to try.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the most part, the biggest concern in my mind was very practical. If she and I broke up, who would get the LARP,
The LARP.
right? And
That's really why you
we
ran.
did. We did break up.
Uh-huh.
And she had sort of taken a break from it
Mm-hmm.
because of work.
Mm-hmm.
She was working a job that required her to get up at ungodly hours in the morning by her standards.
Right.
And therefore, since the game was held on Thursday nights, it was difficult for her to make those. So she had been kind of taking a break. So when we did break up, I got the LARP in the breakup, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing it for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't. I was doing it because it was fun.
Yeah.
And then we got back together, and everything's fine.
That was great.
Right. So we like to call AOKP the oldest new kind of LARP.
Mhm.
It's been around since 1980 in some form or another.
Mhm.
It's been around in California since 1983. Little bit of backstory. Stork joined in 1984. Yes. He has admitted to this.
Uh-huh.
He joined it back in 1984, and is, by the way, the reason I know of at least one person choosing a college based on the fact that there was a LARP there. A guy named Ron who he was in high school, and he was touring colleges, and he was touring Whittier College, and he met Stork drawing in his sketchbook.
Great.
under a tree somewhere,
Right.
and telling Ron about this underground club that he was in, which is what it was at the time, and because
Nobody talks about LARPing.
well, the term LARP hadn't even been coined yet,
Right.
and so
I didn't know.
and yeah, it was 1984. Really? Seriously? Okay. But I was alive. But
I was
you were technically alive.
alive.
Right.
Yeah.
You weren't aware, but okay, fair enough. Yeah. So and Ron actually chose to go to Whittier College because of Stork and AOKP,
It's amazing.
isn't it? And they've been friends ever since, from what I understand. So,
Fascinating.
um,
I bet he had long hair.
yeah, he still does.
He just
He's
cut
a-
it. Did you see?
You did? No, I thought you meant Ron.
He's got a ball. Oh no.
No,
Sorry.
Stork had long hair
Yeah.
then too. Yeah. But no, Ron is an awesome prop maker.
Yeah.
That's what he does for a living now.
That's
He
awesome.
makes props,
Cool.
and he makes really awesome ones, really cool ones.
Does he have
So-
like a thing I might know? He
I
sounds
can't, remember,
familiar.
I can't remember his company name,
Okay.
so I'm
Well,
sorry,
probably.
but
I follow like every prop maker I can find
Yeah.
on Twitter and the Instagram. So
he does some really cool stuff.
cool.
So yeah, conflict resolution in LARP.
So basically, a LARP is like a role playing game, except you actually are role playing.
Instead of rolling dice, you actually instead of saying my character goes over here and picks up the torch,
you go over there.
you go over there and you pick up the torch.
And you wear costumes.
And you wear costumes.
Mhm.
For the most part, I mean, costumes vary
Mm.
from an inside-out T-shirt
Hmm.
to not even bothering to turn the T-shirt inside out to wonderfully designed. Yes,
Why would you turn your T-shirt inside out?
because it has some sort of logo on
Oh.
it that is anachronistic for the
Oh,
time
I
period
see,
of the
I see.
Okay,
Okay, that
you
makes
know,
sense.
like you're wearing a Veronica Mars T-shirt and that doesn't fit in an Arturian setting.
So- oh, okay. But an inside out T-shirt fits in
Well,
the
then-
Arturian session?
Well, then it's just a tunic.
I'm giving you a hard time. Yeah, that's
It's a short tunic.
very
but-
tight tunic.
Well, if it's a fitted tee, you
Okay.
know, then it's a really flattering.
Flattering.
tunic.
Yes,
it's
that
a
kind
figure
of tunic.
flattering tunic. Yes, exactly.
Excellent. Oh,
Um,
punished props.
I'm sorry. What?
It's punished props. I totally know punished props.
Punished props?
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
it. That's wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Ron. Yeah. Pardini. He's,
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's
He
so
does
cool.
good stuff.
You have to make me his best friend. I totally follow him.
Okay. I don't know how to do that.
It's really
But
You say, Ron, this is Kimmy. She's cool. She's your best friend now. She told me so. Except not like that at all.
you want me to like pass him a note in the hall during between class?
Sure. Will you be Kimmy's friend? Yes.
No.
No. Circle one.
Anyway.
I'm not turning my shirt inside out. No.
All right, so yeah, I mean, conflict resolution in LARP is you talk things out,
Okay.
and if that doesn't work, you challenge them to a duel.
Mhm.
At least in the LARP that we're in, because it's very much an
Oh, he's
Arthurian.
not punished. Sployd is like giving me false
Oh,
information. Oh, I love punished props too. I thought that was wrong. Never mind. But I still want to meet Ron or find
Okay.
out who he is. It'd be great.
Stork probably has a better line on him than I do.
Okay, I'll do it.
So, anyway, yeah, we're in a very much an Arthurian
Mhm.
mythos, so it's medieval European style thing, and if you have a problem with what somebody has just said about you, you can ask them to apologize, and if they don't, then you challenge them to a duel, because there's this thing where we hit people with foam-covered sticks.
Yeah.
And there are rules to the hitting of
Mhm.
people with foam-covered sticks, but that if you lose the duel,
Mhm.
fortunately your character isn't dead,
Mhm.
so you can actually, it's like, okay, yes, might makes right,
Mhm.
and more to the point, it's very much rooted in that idea of he who has right on his, or she
Mhm.
who has right on his or her side then will be victorious.
Yes.
That's the whole concept of trial by duel, trial by combat.
So in tabletop games, I haven't done LARPing. I'm super interested in the costuming aspect of it,
I'm shocked.
but
Shocked.
I'm not really as interested in the other parts of it. I think just because of Ren Fair for so many years, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I kind of done that.
Ren Fair is LARPing.
Yeah, it's just
SCA is LARPing.
Yeah.
They just
call themselves.
really don't like it when you say that.
Yeah. It's totally LARPing. It's totally LARPing.
It's live action role playing. You
Yeah.
are playing a role
Yeah.
in a live action scenario.
exactly.
Why is that not LARPing?
Right. No, we have to make ourselves about somebody. So if when I'm playing a tabletop game, I cannot know anything about guns or weapons, and I can still be an effective character because my character does.
Mhm.
So how does that work with sword fighting? Because I am really great
depends-
at posing with a sword and looking good enough a picture with a
Right.
sword. Actually, sword fighting, I would never be effective.
One, I think you would be better than you expect.
Maybe.
Two, it depends on the LARP.
Mhm.
Ours is extremely rules light LARP. AOKP doesn't really have armor or skill points or magic that you can fling at people. Not very much anyway.
The little beanbag things.
Little beanbag.
Okay.
We've somewhat incorporated that, but it's not a regular element.
Okay.
LARPs like Weird of Avalon or Dying Kingdoms, or there's a new one, Dystopia Rising, that's a post-apocalyptic style LARP that's been coming up recently. They have different rules, and they do have sort of if you can't physically manage to be a badass, then there are rules that essentially are like the dots or just the stats on a character sheet that say, well, my character is much better than I am.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really fun to do a cross pollination of those, because in AOKP, if you want to be better at something, you have to get better at it. And that's one of the core premises of the group, is that character improvement comes through self-improvement.
Okay.
So if you want to be a better fighter, you better train and get to be a better fighter.
Okay.
On the other hand, if you want to be a better artist, you better train and get to be a better artist.
Oh.
You know, there are multiple ways to improve your character. So, you know, I the only way you get better at something is by doing it more.
Yeah. Totally.
Practice.
Practice.
You know,
Absolutely.
practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. But I mean, if I want to be a better musician, I gotta practice, right? You know,
yeah.
So we covered this at the con back in May. Is my attitude is that, at least within our setting, the system is equal, but not necessarily equitable.
Okay.
Some people just are not physically cut out to be a badass on the field of battle.
Right.
Okay. And we have a couple of people in our group who have cerebral palsy. And one of them, no, she does not fight. The other one scares the hell out of you when she runs across the field, three-legged, her in a crutch, runs across the field and stabs you in the back.
Nice.
Where the hell did you come from?
Nice.
Because you don't expect it.
Yeah.
And so when she gets you, it's in stealth and guile. That's there's always another there's always another way to get to the end of that problem. Nice. Just like in a tabletop scenario. You know, you can talk the guard into letting you in, or you can kill the guard.
Yeah. There's lots of choices.
Right. Or you can convince the guard, hey, look over there, it's an obvious distraction. Whack.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Sure. So
absolutely. Awesome. That's very cool. And you do vampire LARPs too, right?
I used to.
Okay.
Mary still does.
Okay. Because those happen sometimes at the con, I know.
They have had events at the cons, at the Strategic Con, mainly because why not? It's a venue, and part of the problems with LARPing is finding a venue.
Yeah.
And hey, look, a ready-made venue.
Yeah.
Haha. I was in the Pillars of Salt LARP for a while. I got out of it for a number of reasons. I wasn't particularly enjoying it. But that was primarily because of the style of game it was, and the style of character I had, and the style of game I wanted to play didn't match. No, it's a Camarilla game. And there is a Sabbat.
So why would you like that? God.
There is a Sabbat game as well.
Right.
Which
There's like
I
a
have
secret handshake though, and you have to like pass a test, and you have to like give
No,
them your firstborn child to get into that one.
But it was a very political game.
Yeah.
The Camarilla is a very political game, and I was not playing a political character.
Okay.
And I didn't really feel like playing a political game. Now, Mary is playing an extremely political character.
Right.
And so she's getting a whole lot out of it. And so she's really enjoying it, and she's still doing it, and more power to her.
Yeah.
And that, it was personal preference. I'm not I'm not saying that the Pillars LARP is bad. I'm just saying it wasn't a fit for me.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
So I got, and also there was a matter of scheduling. Like they would often have games on nights when, or days or whatever, when the band had a show.
Right.
And I'm like, no, band first.
Gotta go first.
I have to, and so I'd miss games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we missed one of the games because of our honeymoon.
Yeah.
But that was a legitimate
That's
excuse.
a good reason.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, we can't participate in your
Yes.
your thing because we're in Greece.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good.
Yeah, we thought so.
We're kind of come full circle now. We're back into your musicianship, and I think that's a good place to kind of end,
Oh,
where
okay.
you can kind of, because one of the other questions that we got was, how long have you been a musician, and when did you get involved with Sportive Tricks? We talked about the when.
When I joined Sportive Tricks was
2007.
2009.
9, right.
Yeah, 7 years ago.
Yeah, and
I auditioned not expecting to get in.
right. So how long have you been a musician? Let's plug your band a little bit before we kind of wrap it up.
How long? Depending on your definition of musician, I have been singing in some sort of organized form or another for 30 years.
Oh, nice.
And I was in choirs in high school that went to South America and Europe.
Nice.
My voice has taken me a lot of really awesome places.
Mm-hmm.
So the band I'm in now, we've opened for the Fenians 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So we've played the Grove of Anaheim. We played the Coach House. We played the 1,200 seat auditorium at Pechanga Casino. I mean, just
That's awesome.
so my voice has taken me a lot of places. How long have I been a musician? Well, I picked up the bass guitar in college, and that was the first instrument that actually stuck. I tried piano and I tried clarinet, but I picked up the bass guitar in college, and that actually stuck. And now I don't play that very much. I'm a drummer, so still drummer and a singer, still not a musician.
My dog's bothering me, so I'm just gonna pick him up so he stops bothering me.
Cutie doggy.
Say hi.
Such a cute doggy.
Say hi. Sorry,
I'm
continue.
such a dog person.
Thank you.
So yeah, singer and a drummer, not really a musician in that sense. But I do play bass guitar occasionally, so I do count myself a musician in that respect.
Nice. That makes sense.
And I qualify myself as a drummer, not a percussionist. I put me behind a kit. I have no idea what to do with my feet. I play barin. That is the drum I play,
Nice.
and I can manage with other handheld drums like or percussion instruments like a tambourine or things like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Bookshelf.
I think I moved my mic there. But excellent. That's good. So, Sportive Tricks, what type of music do you play?
We play Celtic folk with a kick.
Yay!
And you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter as Sportive Tricks. It's right there. Right.
Yeah, so if people tweet you at that, they're not actually going to talk to you, probably.
No, they will actually talk to our maven of there it is. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Sportive Tricks. We'll talk to our maven of social networking, and we have a show this Sunday. So
Excellent.
today is Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So Sunday at 2:00 at
Sunday.
Sunday.
You're doing much better than me.
Don't miss the Celtic music extravaganza. At Muldoon's Irish Pub in Newport Beach,
Nice.
California.
Mm-hmm.
So those of you who are in the Southern California area, yeah, it's good times. 2:00. So you can even go get, it doesn't even screw with your evening plans.
No, I know.
So, because
Excellent.
and they do a really great brunch, Irish brunch there. Which
Ooh, that sounds good, doesn't it?
yes, it does.
Yes, it does. And very last question, what are we drinking?
I am drinking Samuel Adams Winter Lager,
Nice.
which is one of my favorites of their seasonals. And after having fought nearly 2.5 hours of traffic to get here, I really
needed it.
want it. No, I don't need alcohol. I just really like to have it.
And I, like so often, am drinking Angry Orchard Crisp
Which is
Apple.
a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful cider.
I love
It's
it.
great.
And
Yeah.
best thing of all, there's like a 7-Eleven like 600 feet from here, and they carry it.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
It's the best.
I did not find that one.
Yeah, no, not that one.
I stopped by one of the gas stations on the way here,
Aw.
and it was one that doesn't even have a mart, like a little
Aw.
quickie mart inside it. And I was like, is there a liquor store or a grocery store anywhere around here? He's like,
No, oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
like, okay, Google Maps. Oh, look, there's a liquor store 0.3 of a mile from here.
Yeah.
And I found that one, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show
Absolutely.
today. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to having you on Happy Jacks and seeing you at the con and break a leg at your show and all those things.
Yes.
Awesome.
Hopefully a leg and not like a guitar string
Or
or
a
something.
tipper. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I turn my own tippers. So I
Oh,
would.
really?
Yeah. I'm a woodworker when I can,
Mhm.
and I learned how to use a lathe back in junior high school in
Mhm.
shop class, and I just love it. So I will actually. Yeah, I've turned my own tippers because to get the exact right balance, totally by accident.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah.
Awesome.
No, I have broken one of the ones that I turned, and it was
Oh.
so yeah, I had to remake that one.
Yeah. And thank you for everyone who's watched. We are looking into possibly pulling the audio from these and posting them as a podcast. So bug Stew about that. I'm going to keep bugging him too. So maybe that will happen because we have a lot of people who
Yes,
say,
insect stew
yeah,
about that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you so much. And we don't have any songs or anything, so we're just done. So
Oh, you can't put a
Aw.
Sport of Tricks song at the end of this episode?
no, I'm not fancy like that.
Because the last time I asked him to put a Sport of Tricks
Yeah.
song at the end of the, I said, maybe I was wrong in saying you'd probably tell me to get my own show anyway. And that's exactly what he did, and he put somebody else at the end
Oh,
of the show.
so you're gonna go back now, and if you change one thing about the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, they
I
play
put
your
tricks.
music.
Yes, I put more trick songs at the end of the show. Thank you. Yes.
All right.
We've got 3 albums out there. We got plenty of music to pick from.
Tons
So
of music. Awesome. Very
Exactly.
cool. All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you, Kurt.
thank you very much for
Alright.
watching and listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Ah, there you go. Yay!
Yay!
Successful.
Fun times.
Hello, pup. You
Glad
want
I could
to
help out.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And as soon as Mary gets done with all of her conventions this month, I'm sure
Yeah.
because she had 3 this month,
Oh my gosh, that's a
or
lot.
has 3,
Yeah.
because she's only had one of them so far. So she's got 2 more this weekend and next weekend.
Wow.
Yes, Thanksgiving weekend.
That's
At least
madness.
none of them are. At least all of them are cool.
Yeah.
Not having to go anywhere for
Yeah.
them. But
Oh, audio's still on.
oh, I turned mine off.
Mine's still. It should be off. You can still hear us. How do you hear us? The mics are off.
Face mics.
Face mics. Maybe. I wonder if. Can you still hear us? Hello? Oh, yeah. The mic was. It's the camera mic. Oops.